I was asked to give a presentation today on the web-based training program, where things are and where we're headed in the future. I'd like to start out by just giving a little history on the program. It started out in 2014 at the National Equipment Conference. The attendees got together and identified a list of potential research topics. Afterwards, in February 2015, EMTSP made an application to AASHTO TC3, which is the Transportation Curriculum Coordination Council, to host 2 courses on their website under a scholarship. EMTSP would develop the technical content and then provide it to TC3 to, I'll say, webify and then host online. So in June of 2015, after they had submitted the application, they received word that they were awarded a scholarship for those 2 courses. And then in the fall of 2015, the EMTSP worked to identify 2 courses from that list to move forward. And so the first course they wanted to develop was called Preventative Maintenance Concepts, and the second was benchmarking and best practices for state equipment fleets. So to talk a little bit about the Preventative Maintenance Concepts course, this is generally geared towards employees with about 3 to 5 years of experience. Generally, they're going to be either a fleet supervisor or maybe an advanced fleet technician, someone at those levels. Now, having said that, this is still something that's good for anybody within the organization to take. It contains 6 chapters. It's about 2.5 hours in length. The content includes a audio narration, so they've got information provided to them beyond what's on the actual slide itself. Each chapter within the course contains 2 or 3 hurdle test questions that there's a question presented they have to answer, and then it gives them the answer and why that is the correct answer. So helps to keep their attention and make sure they're grasping the content that's being presented. So once we at NCPP completed the development of the content and it was approved by the education committee that we have reviewing this and the oversight panel, it's turned over to AASHTO TC3. So quickly to cover the material that was included in the Preventative Maintenance Concepts course, we looked at fundamental preventative maintenance principles, and this is covering things like planned activities to prevent failures, proactive inspections, performing work activities when on a time or mileage schedule instead of waiting for a failure to occur. Basic elements of a preventative maintenance program, and we're talking about checklists, PM intervals. Does the agency have facilities that are conducive to performing preventative maintenance? Are there adequate supplies and tools available? Is there a formal process for work scheduling and record keeping? We look at basic fleet supervisor and fleet technician responsibilities within the program. We talk about advantages and disadvantages of various maintenance models. And by that, we're talking about reactive maintenance, scheduled maintenance, proactive maintenance, or reliability-centered maintenance. We look at fleet management systems to capture operating data. So we're talking about the benefits of using a computerized system, help the agency understand the data that they have. Finally, we're looking at how to measure and analyze a preventative maintenance program performance. And so that's really looking at the benefits of preventative maintenance relative to the costs. The course was completed in early 2017. An MOU was signed between EMTSP and TC3 in April, and since that time the course has been put up on their website. Now, the MOU allows all states to access the content of this course for free. So regardless of whether your state contributes to TC3, you're able to go into this course using your government email and take this web-based training. So if you haven't had the opportunity to take it, or there's people in your organization that would benefit from that, I would encourage you to go in and take that when you have time. The next course is benchmarking and best practices. We've completed the development of the content. It's undergoing review right now. I'd expect that to be completed later this year, and that the content would be on the TC3 website early next year. So to quickly look at some of the topics we're covering in this course, fundamental concepts of performance management. And here we're really talking about the three concepts are strategic planning, performance management systems, and then finally looking at how we're connecting the results to improving the process within the agency. Three performance metric categories that we discuss. There's inputs, which are your people, your labor, your equipment, and your tools, anything that's put into the activities that you're doing. And so the second metric category is the activities, the work you're doing day to day. And finally, the outcomes or the results you're hoping to achieve from your day-to-day activities. And so then we talk a little bit about identifying appropriate performance metrics for benchmarking. There's lots of activities you're doing day to day, but it's a burden to try to go out and capture information for every single thing you're doing. So how do you go out and prioritize what you should be tracking? What's the really important things that you're doing? We talk a little bit about internal benchmarking and external benchmarking, the two different types. There's benefits to measuring both, so we explain what the differences are and what the advantages that come from doing each type are. And then what to do with the benchmarking data. So you go in and you're capturing all this data, but you need to use it for something. So we talk about how to tie that back into improving the way your organization runs. And then we get into a little bit of the limitations of benchmarking. Talk about how different organizations capture information differently. They, for example, if we're talking about a fully burdened labor rate, that could be calculated a number of different ways and is calculated a number of different ways. Talk about things like a centralized fleet versus decentralized fleet. The way that your organization is structured may make the data substantially different from other organizations. So how do you capture information and benchmark yourself against another organization? You want to try to get as a direct comparison as you can. So. And finally, we look at identifying fleet best practices. I had some discussion about what is going to be the third and fourth web-based training developed. So last month we submitted a survey to states, and probably a number of you saw this and responded. So we've got the results up here to the responses that we received. And the number one topic for the third course was equipment utilization. But right now, there's a report being done by NCHRP on that topic, so it's due or overdue at this point. So we're waiting to see that report before we move forward with any topic. So that's, or any web-based training. So that's on the back burner for right now, and we're going to proceed with establishing equipment complements and sizing of fleets. So another issue I'd like to talk about briefly is what's going to be done with the courses when they're completed. There's really two paths forward on this, and one is a course certificate, and that is someone goes in and takes each one of these web-based training classes, and when they're done, they print out a certificate that they made it to the end, and that's it. The other being a certification program. I'm going to talk briefly about what that would be. So we at NCPP work with the TSP2 program, and they started a certification program for pavement treatments a little over a year ago. So we've been involved with that and kind of have some understanding from that program how the certification program works and some of the benefits of what comes with that. And I'll say relative to the certificate option, one of the issues we've noticed is that a lot of people will take the web-based training and then they go through the material, but the knowledge transfer isn't there. Some people are busy, they've got other things going on, and so they get to the end. Some of them don't spend enough time on it to really understand the material. So having a certification program in place really ensures that people who participate in this are understanding what you want them to understand, and that they're really learning the material. So a certification program is envisioned as a voluntary program. If we get down the road and decide that EMTSP wants to have a certification program, it's voluntary. So they can support it for equipment programs, but it's up to each individual state whether they want to have their people participate or not. So the training courses that are being developed for hosting by TC3 are really the prerequisite training material to sit for an exam. And as I said, it ensures that the knowledge transfer is taking place and that the employees possess those competencies that you as an organization want them to have. And so this certification exam is based upon the content of the web-based training courses. Looking at what the AASHTO TSP2 program has done since they initiated their certification program, theirs was a 50 to 80 question exam based on a specific treatment. Questions are written in a true, false, or multiple choice format, and then examinees need to obtain a score of 70% or more to pass the exam. And the exam is closed book, closed note. Somebody comes in and offers a paper exam to those attendees. For smaller groups, if there's people that aren't able to make an exam on a given date, if there's people that don't pass a test and need to retake, there's an option available. There's a group called the Consortium of College Testing Centers, which is part of the National College Testing Association. So most every state has a number of these centers available. They're located at community colleges, universities. They can go in and be proctored a test. It's usually free, or there may be a nominal fee for somebody to sit and take an exam. But generally, testing is done in a large group together, but there may be instances where that's not always possible. So this offers a way for smaller groups to take an exam. And so examinees who pass are entered into a database and issued a certification card. That information is maintained on an online searchable website. And then the certification is valid for a specified period of time. So after the certification has expired, the employees need to go back and be recertified. And that's just really a recognition that technology evolves, processes change, just making sure that their knowledge is current. And so that's what's been done there. Again, I say that, and all of this is just something to consider at this point. Take the opportunity to consider what should we do when all of these courses have been developed. Certification program may or may not include all the content you've developed. If you have 8 or 10 classes, you may not necessarily want to have a program that includes everything. It may be a subset of those courses you've developed. So it's really up to EMTSP and WSHEMA and others to decide where this goes, but it's something that I just bring up for future consideration. So
Neal, did you say when the next class that you're currently working on will be done?
It's undergoing final review right now, so I would expect it would be on the website probably early 2018.
It's one of those technical services programs. It's, I believe, around $25,000 per year compared to the EMTSP, which is a mere $3,000. But because the EMTSP thought it was important for this material that this program develops, that it should be free to all of the states. So we had, in Caltrans, we had one of our staff test it, and we were able to get in and view that material. So I'm sure we'll send out a reminder that that information is available. So.
One last thing I will add, if any of you try to get into the course and you have any problems accessing it, you can contact me. My information's up here. You can contact Dennis Halichoff, anybody at NCPP, or Tim Cunningham, and we'll follow up and make sure that you're able to access the course. But again, you do have to use your work email to do so. So, thank you.
The preceding video was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found at tsp2.org. That's tsp2.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.